this is Paolo Margherita, and today we are talking about how to intercept a radial. This is the video number 2, so you might be interested in watching it part 1 first, but if you're interested in the topic, well, you can join me in my pilot lounge. So here we are, and before starting I shall remind you that there is a video disclaimer, so please make sure that you are aware of what it says in that disclaimer, and let's get forward with our topic. In the last part we discussed a very important and very often underestimated problem in intercepting radials, which is the terminology that you don't identify, and why is that important to be able to navigate and basic IFR. But today we really get to the heart of the matter. What is the technique to be used to intercept a radial? The first question is there a shortcut? Is there any trick that I might use to fool the assessor and make him think that I'm very good in flying IFR while actually I'm not? Unfortunately, there's not really. Sometimes assessor wants to be fooled. I would say they're not really investigating too much how good you are in basic IFR navigation. But if the assessor really wants to make sure that you're able to use the navigation instruments, then, well, the trick's not going to help you a lot. We're going to discuss anyway some, if not maybe all the most famous tricks that there are around to intercept a radial. So we might look at that, but before going that, I would like to underline the correct technique for navigating using the RMI and the HSI, the correct technique to intercept a radial. First of all, we should underline which instrument am I using, an OBI. And the OBI, I would say, is the king of the instrument, because if you know how to use the OBI, then you know how to use the RMI and the HSI at the same time. But it's not very used in aviation nowadays, so it's not going to be discussed in this video. I'm actually going to be talking about the RMI and I'm going to be talking about the HSI. Good. Let's talk about how to intercept a radial. We will start with some slides. What you see now on your screen is exercise that could be presented to you. Now, there's not always an exercise. We'll come back to this exercise later on. You see, we have an altitude and we have a position, radial 140, and I'm asking you to intercept the course 3452. Now, first of all, make sure that you know what course 3452. Make sure that you know the course 345 to the station is the opposite radial, so it is radial 165. That is a key element, I would say. And once this is done, so once you know what is the requested, then we can go on with the exercise. You can decide turning left, right, or 315015. But I'll get back to this later on. Why? Because normally, well, it seems to be just an exercise. Well, it is actually a real flying. So there are real obstacles. There are real procedures to follow. Alright, so what I'm showing you here on the screen is a map, simply. And we have to learn how to use a map, okay? There is a lighthouse with arrows, there is some objects, okay? And now depict a ship for you. We are on the ship and we want to get somewhere. For example, I'll tell you, we're on the ship, we want to get to the oil rig. Now, how do you do? Well, you simply draw a line between where we are, where we want to go, and you find out what is the track of that line. How do you find the track? Well, would that be correct if I tell you it's track south? Obviously not, it's not track south. I'm telling you is it track south because the line is going very close to the letter S, okay? But that is obviously wrong. It's not south. The correct way to do it is to take that line, bring it parallel to the on top of the rows and determine that that line is actually track something around 070080, okay? The very same way, if I tell you, let's go on the line of windmills, okay? To go on the line of windmills, we have to go north. How do I determine that? Again, I draw a line from where I am to the line of windmills, bring it parallel, and discover that there is north. Now, once we are on the line of windmill, imagine that I tell you, no, we're too far away from the island. I want to get closer. Now, what we have to do is to navigate probably what would be track 135. Let's imagine at some point to tell you, oh, now we got too close. I want to get farther out. Well, you turn over, you navigate on track 315. So basically, we're navigating back and forward, 135, 315 track, along this line of windmill. But if there was a person watching at us from the lighthouse, is actually standing on the rows under his feet, is standing on a 315 and he's never moving. He's standing there and is watching at us, going back and forward on this line of windmill on the 315. And this is the concept of radial. We are on the line of windmill, we are on the radial 315. And we're just going back and forward, adding 135, 315, adding 135 will take us closer, the reciprocal, and the 315 will take us farther out. That is the concept of radial. And at the very same way, I could ask you for a more complicated track. Like, for example, tell you, let's get inside the port. Now, you can't just go straight to the port because you see there is a brown line that's probably the wall of the port. So we would you can't go straight. So we have to have a plan. Okay, what could be the plan? Well, for example, we could take the track 080. That is the track needed to go to the oil rig. But once we reach a reference point, we start turning left on a heading, which could be, again, 315 or 325 or something like that. What could be that reference points? Indeed, another radial. So when we see us crossing radial, for example, 140, or when you just say, I see myself aligned with the entrance of the port, that's fine. But we need to have a reference point. That reference point is most likely a radial. So, this is a very simple exercise, isn't it? I mean, it sounds very stupid, but unfortunately is what places pilots in difficulty. Because now what happens is that imagine that, well, this is a navigation chart, by the way. It's not really the chart I have on the slides, but imagine I'm looking at the chart, okay? And I'm drawing my lines for the navigation. And at this point, somebody comes and turns over the chart for me, okay? But does this maneuver of turning the chart 90 degrees or even 45 degrees, but does this change anything about my navigation? Once I connected the various points with a track and I brought parallel that track and found what heading or what magnetic track is that route, well, it doesn't change anything. You look at this map, even upside down or any angle, nothing will change, okay? And that's exactly it. In the next slide, I've just turned by 90 degrees your map, okay? Again, does it change anything? I have the same track to go to the oil rig, the same track to go to the line of windmill. The procedure is exactly the same. You draw the line, bring it parallel. And it's not because now the line is horizontal to the windmill is horizontal, that is east or west. No, because the rows clearly say that north is horizontal. So that is the track. So apparently this seems to be a very difficult exercise. What I'm showing you on the next step is what places a wide number of pilots in large difficulty. And it's unbelievable how many pilots lack in this knowledge. And it's so simple. Please pay attention to the next slide. Here we go. This operation seems to be extremely difficult, okay? Again, if I want to go to the line of windmill, meaning that I want to fly on radial 315, I have to fly north. And once I reach radial 315, if I want to fly inbound the island, inbound the station, I have to turn on heading 135, okay? So it remains very simple until it gets to the next slide, which is exactly the same instrument, okay? But there is no chart depicted underneath. It's us that has to think about it and depict the chart underneath. But when you have these instruments and you go asking pilots intercept radial 315 inbound, there will be a large number of pilots that will have massive difficulty in carrying out this exercise, which is extremely simple. It is basic, okay? So make sure, I'll get back to the slide, make sure that you have this concept clear in your head, okay? The station is in the middle, your aircraft is on the tail on the needle, and then terminology, you have to understand what is the assessor or the instructor asking you. He is asking you QD mic 135. Well, 135 has to go for the reciprocal, which is radial 315. Once I understood, I find where I want to go, draw the line, and that's very easy. Bring it parallel, understand what the route is, okay? Well, we can get another example. For this example, I've actually removed the number from the RMI. So this RMI doesn't have any number. Why? Because there's no need for any calculation. Sometimes I see pilots starting, I ask them a radial, and I see they're doing scientific calculation. There's no need to make any math, okay? It's simply a basic exercise, just drawing a line with your imagination on the instruments, and that's all you need to do, okay? So you see that in this instrument, well, the question is, where is the station? Of course, in the center of the instrument. And where is the aircraft? On the tail on the instrument, and it's flying always upway, okay? That is my heading, that is my track. Well, that should be corrected by the wind, actually, but yes, that is my heading. At this point, I come and ask you, okay, intercept, blah, blah, blah. Again, terminology. You have to intercept, you have to understand what this blah, blah, blah means. Is it a radial or is it a QD mic? Then I have to do the reciprocal. Course inbound, same thing, the radial is the reciprocal. Well, once you understood the terminology, you understood which radial I'm asking you, you go simply on the instrument and find out where is the number that I've asked you, simply, okay? I've drawn a blue cross on the number that I've asked you. At this point, you see on this following slides that there is a range of headings that you might choose to reach on that radial. I make you notice, by the way, that if you choose an intercept of 90 degrees, actually won't work. Say that I ask you QD mic, if you intercept with 90 degrees, you will intercept with QD Romeo. Same thing, say that I ask you that radial to fly outbound, you actually first intercept the radial inbound, the opposite radial inbound, and then you will fly the requested radial outbound, okay? So make sure that you visualize the track that you have, because 90 degrees is not always the good solution, okay? Let's pretend that the heading which I highlight with a blue circle, with a yellow circle, is the track that we decide to fly. Good. At this point, I give you back the numbers, just for practical reasons, okay? And see, I determine the track without doing any calculation. I need to put heading something like, is it 325, something like that? Good. This is the instrument in these slides, how it look like as I finish turning on heading 325. Now, here I give you a hint, which is a very good hint, which I always give to all pilots, and I always recommend you to use, because it's so simple that you can't forget, okay? And the needle, the point of the needle always move down way, and the tail of the needle always go up, okay? Why I say it's so simple? Well, it is simple to memorize, indeed, but you don't need to memorize, because it's obvious, okay? If you are sitting in an aircraft and your point is pointing outside to any object outside the window of your aircraft, your finger will move backward. As you fly, everything is moving backwards. That is obvious, okay? So the point of the needle is pointing to a station. Is your finger like pointing to a house, okay? That will move backwards. So the point of the needle will move downway, will move backward. And because the needle is straight, the tail will go up, okay? So remember this, the tail will go up. And that's a very simple rule, but you see that if you, for any reason, you have any doubt, with this extremely stupid rule, you can't have any doubt, okay? The tail of the needle will go up. So the question is, as the tail go up, will it eventually reach the number 350? And yes, if it go up, it will reach the number 350. At the infinity, if I keep going this heading, well, in the infinity, it will reach 330 and slowly even 325, okay? It will never be less than 325 because it can't go on the other way. But yes, so I can say, yes, this heading is correct. Let's see how it looks like as it's progressing through the intercept, okay? Here we see, basically, we are on 035. Again, I might cross-check the situation, confirming that it's looking correct, and now I'm about to intercept 10 degrees away, and at this point, let's say that I tell you, okay, I want to fly inbound. So obviously, question is, should I turn left or right? Obviously, I have to turn left. You see that by visualizing the map, there is no doubt on what you have to do, whether you have to go inbound or outbound, okay? And all right, so this will be a left turn, and this will make this example complete. About the HSI, in this specific case, obviously, if I was to fly outbound, I should set the HSI on course 350, when if I was to fly inbound, I should set the HSI on the course 170. Because the HSI is always instinctive, there are some pilots that make the massive mistake of saying, well, because it's instinctive, it doesn't change anything. That is a mistake. And again, quite often I hear students saying, well, anyway, it's always instinctive, doesn't change a lot. That is completely wrong. Why is it completely wrong? Because of the autopilot functioning. So it is conceptually wrong setting the wrong course, but is factually wrong when you fly a complex aircraft which is equipped with an autopilot with a VOR-LOC function. The VOR-LOC function will track the course, and the VOR-LOC function does make the difference between 350 and 170. If you set course 350, the VOR-LOC will intercept the radial 350 outbound. If you set course 170, the VOR-LOC function will intercept the radial 350 inbound, course 170, QDMI 170, okay? So, because of this, it is extremely important that you make the difference between the two settings, and again, that setting correctly the HSI demonstrates to your instructor, to your assessor, that you understand the correct terminology and the meaning of this. Setting course 350 and then turning onto 170 inbound destination, that would just demonstrate that you did not understand the correct terminology, you did not understand the correct functioning of the aircraft system. So don't do this mistake, okay? The other thing is the usage of the HSI for the intercept. For the intercept, as I said in the beginning, we always use the RMI, don't use the HSI. The HSI is used for navigation. The whole dimension of the instrument is used just for 10 degrees fluctuation. So this really helps you in keeping straight on the desired radial, on the desired course, okay? But when the HSI is out of scale, well, is not really useful for the navigation. Unfortunately, there is a misunderstanding because there are many RNAV exercise in the EASA questionnaire where the HSI are full-scale deflection, and this question asking like, where am I? The answer is, the correct answer is, I cannot determine where am I if the HSI is not centered. So if you only have an aircraft which just have an HSI and no RMI, well, you should center the HSI to determine where you are. I'm not addressing this problem, but remember this, the HSI is for navigating, the RMI is for intercepting. Just to clarify this, I will depict on the screen now, there is on these slides, I am putting for you an HSI, okay? It looks like the aircraft will intercept, all right? Let's see actually on the plan what could happen if I don't look at the RMI. You see that the first aircraft will actually intercept and will actually intercept the QD mic to the station, okay? The second aircraft actually will not intercept the QD mic because by flying straight, thinking it will intercept, you'll actually end up over the cone of confusion, will go straight, and probably the pilot will get lost and confused as he gets out of the cone of confusion. The third aircraft actually is flying to the station, but it will quickly move onto the from part and will actually intercept that course but outbound, while I wanted to intercept the course inbound. And the fourth aircraft actually, it looks like, again, is going to intercept, but eventually is going to get so far out that, yes, initially it's going to go in front, and then it's going to get so far out that probably it will be out of the area of coverage of that VOR, so it will never intercept anything at all. So this is just to say that if you look at the picture of the HSI and say, okay, this looks nice, this looks like I'm intercepting, well, that is not enough. You have to look at the RMI, you have to reason by looking at the RMI. Just to make another example, I'm giving you another exercise, okay? Numbers are there, and I'm showing you that I'm requesting to you the radial 220 to be intercepted at 10 DME, and then I ask you to fly a DME arc. And well, it's not written there, but I could tell you why not. Once I reach this radial 090, turning left and starting an approach procedure to the airport where the VOR is located, okay? Well, in the next slide, I'm placing some circles just to discuss just to visualize the distance. And of course, radial 220, it's blue cross and line, and radial 220 at 10 DME is where the yellow circle is. So again, I can draw a line between where I am, where I want to go, compare it, and I'll find out that it's something around adding, well, here I circled 195. Indeed, adding 200 would be okay, adding 190 would be okay as well. I want to clarify why one or the other would be okay. It's because as you fly through that point, you can always monitor the progress of the intercept with your RMI, and you can always adjust a little bit your track just to make sure that you reach the radial 220 at 10 miles. So an initial heading correct is fine, and then you can correct by a few degrees is perfect. Well, of course, you see that as you reach this radial, you expect to turn on the left. It's nearly 90 degrees, probably is going to be heading, radial 220, 90 degrees is going to be heading a 130. And as we're on start the DME arc on heading 130, then we reach it's more than 100 degrees arc just to reach the radial 090. And again, as we reach radial 090, if I told you we're going to start a procedure inbound the VOR, well, we turn left again and we fly inbound the VOR for our approach procedure. Good. This was just to give you another example, but now let's jump into the simulator and let's take again another example on this correspondence of the map of the position with our instrument. Before doing that, let's give a look to this simplified map. Please don't take it too much for good, okay? No, it's not really granted, but here I'm depicting a little map from the VOR of Brookman Park in London area, okay? I tell you that there is Gatwick Airport, which is on radial 180 35 miles, then there is Heathrow Airport on radial 225 15 nautical miles, and Stansted 045 15 nautical miles, okay? And what we're going to do now is to go on the simulator. We're going to position ourselves around London and see if we can find the position of those airports and see if by looking outside this is actually corresponding to what am I expecting. So first of all, we should tune and identify the station. So Brookman Park, it has been tuned and identified, and you can see this on the top right corner is white, actually white for the HSI, and green for the RMI part. So the RMI needle, of course, is green. So we can say the Bravo Papa Kilo Brookman Park has been tuned and identified. Of course, if we look at the HSI, we should set the aircraft at the middle of the instrument, and the CDI, so the magenta bar, is the desired radial. Well, if we want to look at the RMI, we have to set the station in the center of the instrument and the aircraft on the tail, meaning that we are now on radial more or less 150, 152, and if we look at the DME, it's 44 DME. We say London Gatwick, it is located on radial 180, some 40 nautical miles to the south. So let's identify where is Gatwick Airport on the instrument. We take radial 180 and we have to find the distance of 40 nautical miles. The whole circle is 44 nautical miles, so just a little bit less, meaning that Gatwick should be just in front of us, straight out of us, because of course the aircraft is always flying straight. We are now on heading 270, so we will find Gatwick straight in front of us. Concerning Heathrow, so Heathrow Airport is on radial 225, here we go, and we should take a bit less for the distance, because the full distance is 44, so the radial 225 and 15, I will put it more in the less than half of the distance, meaning that Heathrow will be more or less on our 45 degrees to the right. Finally, we say Stansted is located on radial 045 at some 20 nautical miles again. So identify again radial 045 and find out where 20 nautical miles, 15 nautical miles more or less is located. And here we go, that's Stansted basically being exactly at the abeam of us. So with this method, I can imagine a line connecting a route, I would say. I can imagine the route of an aircraft that would like to overfly the three airports. Just continue straight to Gatwick, then turn to the right, maybe heading 330. How can I do that? Well, I bring parallel that track, find out heading 330, and then to the right again, probably on the range of heading 045, 050 to get to Stansted. I can imagine the path of the aircraft overflying the three airports. This can be viewed basically on the instrument. So I can easily imagine a route that overfly the three airports. Now let's see, because we are in a simulator and I can set a CAV-OK day. If by setting a CAV-OK day, I just look outside and can define the route I would follow in VFR. So you see, Gatwick should be straight in front of us. Here we go, I'm pointing with the laser the airport of Gatwick, which is, as a matter of fact, just in front of us. It's not very clearly visible, but I can see, I think the highway should be the A23, something like that brings from London to Brighton and actually goes through Gatwick Airport. Brighton can be visible on the left with the coastline, of course, and then following the airport, following the highway, I reach the city of London. To the right, I have the city of London, and Thames River is also visible. Let's turn a bit more. As we turn a beam, you can clearly see the Thames River and the city of London City. We also say that Heathrow would be radial 225 around 15-20 nautical miles. Let's look outside. Let's see, 45 degrees to the right. Do I see Heathrow? Here we go. This is the airport of Heathrow. 45 degrees, more or less 45 degrees to the right. So yes, you see, there's more or less working. I'm looking to the right by 45 degrees and find the airport I want. Now let's look a beam. We said Stansted will be just a beam. And I'm looking at beam in the distance. It's quite far away. It's not very clearly visible, but down there pointing with the laser is the airport of Stansted. You can see the M11 bringing to Stansted and actually to Cambridge. City of Cambridge is down there. Actually, there's a couple of towns. I don't really know which one it is. But definitely the airport of Stansted again is located abeam our aircraft. So you see that there is a direct correspondence between the airports as I located on the instruments and the airports as they are outside. And if I want to fly VFR, the path I defined before, I just fly straight, then right to Heathrow, following the laser, and then right again to Stansted. Actually, by looking outside, I can't really define what the headings are, but by looking inside, I could define it easily. having seen this direct correspondence now, I will tell you, okay, let's fly direct to Stansted, okay? So we said Stansted is right to the abeam. So let's do this calculation now. Let's turn actually to the right, we'll find the heading, and we'll try to see if we can actually overfly Stansted, but just looking at the instrument. So if I want to fly direct to Stansted, I have to identify the route I want to follow from my position, the tail of the needle, to where is Stansted, the radial 045, some 15-20 nautical miles, there is Stansted. So I just draw a line between the 2 points, bring it parallel, and I can determine that more or less 360, I would say maybe a bit less, 355, more or less heading 355, will take me to Stansted. So, of course, I will take this heading, and I can always adjust as I fly, because I can check the progress of the intercept. So now we're turning to the right, and as we turn to the right, let's see how this goes. So now we are in the turn, and I'll just wait until the turn is completed just to look outside and see if this is actually working. In the meanwhile, I can set the course on the desired course 045. Once again, in this specific case today, I just want to fly the point. So we can say yes, there is no difference. But if I set the course on 045, it means I want to fly 045 radial from Brookman Park, so going away from the station. If I set course 225, it means that I want to fly to the station, so I'm still on radial 045, but I want to fly inbound the station. So there is a difference between the two settings. Good, we are getting now at the end of the turn. So I'm gonna look outside. Let's see if I see the airport of Stansted in front of the aircraft. Let's search for it. And I'm pointing with the laser. I can see the Thames River, the City of London. So we are overflying the City of London indeed. And here we go. Stansted Airport is just in front of us. So actually, yes, it's working. This heading sensibly seems to be the correct one. So it looks like the heading we choose is actually working well. The point of the needle will fall down, the tail will rise up, so it means that yes, we will end up on the radial 045. And as we go through the intercept, we can monitor the progresses of the intercept. You see, I can see, yes, it's working well. The tail of the needle is rising. We started at radial 150. We're now on radial 112, something like that. The distance between us and the station is now 15 nautical miles only. It has been reducing, obviously. And the distance between me and the airport is actually something around 15, maybe a bit more, 80 nautical miles, okay? So if I keep flying this line, yes, I will end up slightly more than 15 nautical miles because the ring is 15 nautical miles. So if I wanted to intercept 15 nautical miles, I should turn a little bit more to the left. With this heading, I will end up something between 18 and 20 nautical miles, as you can see. Let's give a look again outside and see how it is. Now, I'm 10,000 feet, so the Stansted Airport should be really starting to get under the nose of the aircraft. As I overfly the airport, of course, I won't be able to see the airport. Let's look outside, and what you can see is that, here we go, Stansted Airport is just there under the nose of the aircraft. So yes, it worked out well. We are overflying Stansted Airport. Maybe with this track we will leave it slightly on the left. Maybe Stansted Airport exact DME was something around 18 nautical miles. So, as you can see, I could use the RMI as a navigation system to make a fix-to-fix. It's actually not a certified area navigation system, but is a method that pilots may use to have orientation in the space and understand their position. Let's Alright, so in the previous section we have seen what I call the proper way to use the RMI. You might find it called as fix to fix, as never lost. There's different names from the same technique. That technique actually I've learned from military guys, and for those basically who invented the VOR. So it's definitely the best way to use the instrument, I would say. And the question is, are you obliged to use the method I just presented to you? And the answer is no. You might use whatever method of interpretation of the instruments that you like, as long as you might demonstrate to your examiner, to your instructor, to yourself, first of all, that you are able to maintain a full situational awareness looking at the instrument. That is the key element. So the following method that I will show you in a moment in these videos, that I call dummy methods, are definitely simplified methods, much more easy to use methods, I would say, or maybe easy to memorize. I don't call it that easy to use, to be honest, but easier to memorize, definitely yes. But we're gonna see that they give you a limited situational awareness. Now, it's your choice whether to use one method or the other, but you must maintain situational awareness. By the way, at this point, I'll ask you the subscription to my channel. Why this? Because there is a third part of the radial intercept. Actually, in this video, yes, we're gonna complete the radial intercept, don't worry, but there is a lot of usage about the VOR, the RMI, the HSI, a lot of usage information for hold entry, crosswind correction, navigation, DME arcs. All of this information might be easily managed if you use the proper way of interpreting the instrument. So in the third part, I will just talk about how much you lose if you don't interpret the instrument correctly, and what are the problems. And the problem is simply that if you use dummy methods, then you're gonna need dummy method for the crosswind, then you need dummy method or mnemonic method for the hold entry, and another method for the DME arcs and so on. So you're gonna have your head full of stupid rules, when actually you don't need any of those rules if you know how to use correctly the instrument. So in the third part, we're talking about this, and it's not really radial intercept, it's more RMI HSI usage. Now, the question is, when is the third part coming out? Honestly, I don't know. It's not in production at the moment, and that's why I'm asking you your preference, your subscription, like to the channel, and subscribe, click on the bell so that you are aware when the new video is coming out. The reason is that there are very limited capabilities, very limited allocation of resources to this production of those videos. And so with your likes, of course, I might allocate more resources to these videos. So thank you very much for your participation, and let's get forward with our topic, which is other methods. As I said, before choosing other methods, evaluate how good is your method, all right? It happened to me. I want to tell you this story. It was a few time ago. I was flying on an aircraft which was equipped with the FMS, but the FMS had a lack of points in the database. So the database was partially corrupted, and we could not navigate using the FMS at some point. The ATC gave us a very simple clearance, was a heading to intercept a QD mic to join a holding. Unfortunately, that day we had two holding. And unfortunately, that day it was a very uncommon situation, because we were on a heading to intercept a QD mic to join the holding. So I say to the first officer, do you agree with this holding? I think it was a teardrop entry. And the first officer, which was a young pilot, just completing the line training, let's say, the first officer was like, I have no idea. And I was like, what? You don't know what kind of entry we should do, and you're nearly finishing the line training? And the answer was yes, because my method to calculate the hold entry only works if we fly direct to the station. Now, if you want to use a dummy method to calculate the hold entry, I'm perfectly happy, use a dummy method. But when you choose a dummy method, think about it. Think, what are the limits of that method? You can't get onto the line and say to the captain, I can't calculate an hold entry if we don't fly direct to the station. Because sometimes you simply don't fly direct to the station, you get a different clearance. You join a holding from an heading, as it happened to us, from a DME arc, from different directions. So you have to investigate and understand what are the limits of the method you're using, and find out an alternative solution shot you get in this rare situation, which is not that rare at the end of the day, but yeah, let's say a bit more rare situation when you actually have to join on holding, not from direct routing. Same thing for radio intercept from DME arcs and so on. So you must be able to manage every possible situation. You can't accept from yourself to say, okay, I can only do this exercise if we are in these circumstances, okay? So make sure that you carefully assess the method that you want to use, that you want to adopt. And now we're gonna go to a presentation of few more methods that you might choose to use. Now on the screen there is an RMI. You see that the instructor has probably asked something like, it could be intercept QD mic 120 or intercept radial 300 inbound, all right, which still is QD mic 120. Or maybe I could have asked you intercept radial 120 outbound. You cannot know because the HSI, of course, is the whole line going from radial 300 to 120. Correctly, the student must, as we said in the first pass, understand what is the requested from the instructor. He correctly, let's presume he correctly set the HSI on the course 120. This method, I'm telling you, actually, I tell you, I don't really like it because it's working quite effectively. It is quite an efficient method and it doesn't need any reasoning at all. It's very stupid. You start by identifying 3 headings, which are, well, I would call the idiots heading, okay? What are the idiots heading? Well, as you see, there is 1, 2, and 3. If you put 120 heading, you fly parallel to the desired track. If you put 300 heading, you fly in the opposite direction and parallel to the desired track. So definitely, you cannot choose to put heading 120, you cannot choose to put heading 300. There is another idiot heading, in this case is heading 060. Why? Because if you put heading 060, you won't intercept the QD mic, you won't intercept the QD Romeo, you just overfly the station, okay? So obviously, those 3 headings are wrong choice. But once you identify this, and it's very simple to identify, once you identified those 3 headings, then it becomes very simple. Because, you see, you look at the RMI part, and we have a red area, okay? This red area, actually, sorry, I'm looking at the HSI part, and we have this red area. This red area stands for the wrong headings that you must not choose. Why wrong? Because you look at the HSI. The HSI, horizontal situation indicator, is seen with the aircraft in the center of the instrument and the desired route being the magenta CDI, course deviator indicator, so this magenta bar, that will be centered once you are en route. So, in this case, if you take whatever heading in the red arc, your aircraft will not fly toward the desired route. We saw before that when you have this situation as it is depicted now, with the aircraft flying toward the desired route, now is not say that you're going to intercept the QD mic, the QD Romeo, or you're even going to intercept anything. But what is absolutely granted is that if the HSI tells you that you're not flying through the desired course, that is absolutely granted that you will never intercept. So the red arc headings are absolutely granted that you will never intercept anything. You'll just get away of the desired track. So that's perfect. And now we got a remaining 2 sectors. Both sectors divided by the 3rd idiot heading, which is flying straight over the station. The both sector, obviously, what are that? Well, it's the sector where the heading will take me to the QD mic and the sector where the heading will take it to the QD Romeo, simply. So, once I identified those 2 sectors, I have to decide which sector I'm interested in. Am I interested in intercept a QD mic? Am I interested in intercept a QD Romeo? And then I have to think a little bit and identify, okay, which sector is the QD mic and which sector is the QD Romeo? Is the green or is the yellow sector QD mic, QD Romeo? Well, just take a little bit of thinking. If I take a heading on the 090, for example, as I am now, the green point will fall on the left and the tail will go up, meaning that as the tail go up, the tail will reach 120 and I will intercept the QD Romeo. So I'm getting away from the station. Initially, I'm still getting closer, but then, the moment I intercept in desired course, I'm actually intercepting the QD Romeo, the radial outbound, so I'm intercepting radial 1 to 0 outbound. So anything in the yellow area will cause the point to go away from the desired course from the HSI and will cause me to intercept the QD Romeo. Any heading in the green arc instead will cause the point to go on the opposite side, so to fall on my right side and the point to fall on top of the course. So if the point falls on top of the course, then I'm intercepting the QD mic. So this system, we must admit, is very simple. The difficulty is simply identify those two sectors and deciding, do I want a QD mic, QD Romeo? And as I said before, this system might easily fool your assessor. He might be thinking that you know exactly what your position is, when with this system you have no clue of where you are. We're not talking of position, obstacles, and all the stuff like that. But why am I saying this? Because now let's think about distances, okay? If you put the 3 idiot headings, that will never get you the intercept, okay? What happens? Well, if you put the heading which shows the 3rd, so you fly direct to the station, you will intercept, yes, a DME 0, theoretically, so you overfly the station. If you put heading 1 to 0 or 300, you fly parallel. But in theory, if the VOR is an infinite range station, when you are 1000 nautical miles from the VOR, 1 degree is so large that you actually have intercepted the radial 1 to 0, because 1 degree will take, I don't know, 100 miles, okay? So, in theory, at the infinity on 1 to 0, you will intercept the QD Romeo 1 to 0, while at the infinity on 300, you will intercept the QD mic. So, given this consideration, basically what I can do is that I can divide the arcs that we saw before, the green and the yellow arc, in 2 parts, okay? I just divide it in 2, halfway of the scale, okay? No matter how many degrees are, I just take halfway of the scale. And I say that I put those headings, so I want to intercept the QD Romeo, it's heading 090, halfway in between the available headings I might choose to intercept the QD Romeo. If I put halfway, I will intercept exactly the same DME. Same thing, I want to intercept the QD mic, I take the whole scale. If I put the heading halfway, I will intercept the QD mic exactly at the same DME. I want to intercept the QD mic at less distance, for example, now 40 nautical miles, I want to intercept something around 20. Well, perfect, because half scale is same DME, it's 40 nautical miles. If I want to intercept at 20, I will put 1/4 of the scale, so I will put something like heading 030, okay? So basically, I can use the available arc as an indicator of, you know, the DME I want, knowing that half scale is the same DME I have now, and if I want less, I put a bit more towards the 0 DME. If I want more, I put a bit more towards the infinity DME, okay? Same thing if I want to intercept the QD Romeo, half scale is 090, so if I want to intercept the QD Romeo a bit closer, now on 40 DME I want to intercept at 20, I'll probably put a heading around 080, around 075, just to get a bit closer, okay? So this method is really dummy method, it doesn't take a scientist, you just have to learn by heart the rule, and I tell you, it's very effective. In fact, in the next screen, I'm showing you what I call, in the previous part, the proper user of the RMI, okay? And you see that the aircraft is on the tail of the RMI, the station is in the middle, of course, and if I fly current heading 090, you see that I will intercept QD Romeo 120 exactly at the same DME, in absence of wind, of course. And if I fly heading 360, again, I will intercept the QD mic exactly at the same DME. So this dummy method works pretty well. I said before, we're 40 DME and we want to intercept the QD mic at 20 DME, okay? If I put 030, it's not going to be perfectly half of it, okay? But we're going to be close to that. So, although it's not extremely precise, it is fairly accurate as a method. So this method is not bad, okay? And of course, if I want to get farther out, which in this slide would be the bit longer but interrupted line, well, if I want to get a bit farther, it's the same reasoning. By taking 1/4 of the scale towards the infinity DME, it gives me nearly twice as much distance at which I'm now. So I mean, it's not an absolute precise method, but again, it gives you a good idea. Now, let's look at another method. I've here selected an HSI with the course 150. Let's pretend that you have to intercept QD mic 150, okay? So this method is very simple and is very effective as well. This method I like, but unfortunately it's really time consuming. How does it work? Well, it's very simple. You have to bring everything on the chart. So you look at the tail of the needle, 005, and you take the chart. Let's pretend that this is Dublin chart, and we are working on the VR of Baldonel, okay? So I simply have to look at where I am, radial 005, I draw a line 005 at the given DME, and now the problem is that I have to determine what is the DME. Well, on the charts there are some distances, so more or less I could say we are something like I don't know, 10-15 nautical miles, something like that, and I draw across mentally, because you can't really draw on the chart, okay? But mentally, I draw across with my position. Now, the problem is that I also have to take account of the heading. So I'm on heading 150, I must not forget, okay? And at this point, I look again at the instrument and I decide what is the course I want to intercept. And mentally, I have to draw this course on the chart. Here we go. I have drawn the course on the chart. And basically now I can say, okay, I'm flying parallel to this course. The course is to my right. And of course, this might be seen by the RMI, and at this point, this might be seen by the HSI with the CDI displaced to the right. So at this point, I decide by looking at the chart what is the heading I want to take. Now, this method, as I said, I have nothing against, because this gives you full situational awareness, as by looking at the chart, you can perfectly say where is the airport, where are the obstacles, in which MSA you are. So I'm perfectly happy with this method. It does not give you a loss of situation. But I can tell you by experience, this is a really time-consuming exercise and is really prone to mistakes. The other problem is that sometimes you have procedures that could be, for example, a holding. And when I give you a holding now, for example, it was intercept QD mic 150 and join the holding over Baldonel, and I give you a holding. Now you have to invent your position, the green line and the holding, and you have to make the calculation of the holding. This starts to be quite a lot of stuff without a real, I would say, angular reference. Yes, you have a generic reference from the north on the chart, but you don't really have angular reference, and this basically brings you in the need of doing much more calculation. And as I said, generally this method is not really effective, but some guys use it, and I have nothing against, because as I say, this gives you perfect situation awareness. Let's get a bit more scientific method. This is the so-called double the error. Double the error is probably one of the most stupid methods, okay? Where basically you look at the angle that you have between your desired course and your current course, okay? So let's pretend this method only works if you're more or less in the same sector of the desired radial, okay? So these really dummy methods used for assessments, okay? It's not for real life. Well, you can use it in real life, but it's more used when you are in navigation, when you're correcting a track of navigation. It can't really be used when you want to make a radial intercept. But again, if you are the assessment, you know that company is not really strict on the basic IFR procedure in IFR positioning. Well, this method might help you, and it's definitely for dummy pilots, okay? So you look at the angle between the selected course, which is 210, you want to fly course 210, okay? And the current QD mic, which is something like 245, and you add 30 degrees, either left or right. Now you have to choose, okay, which one do I take? Shall I take 280? Shall I take 180? Okay? That is the difficulty. You have to choose between two heading. And now you have to think, well, the point of the needle has to fall. As we say, the point of the needle always falls. So if I put heading 180, the point of the needle will keep doing as it's doing now, okay? To fall on the right. And so will not intercept. If I take heading 280, the point of the needle will fall on my left and will actually intercept on the course. Now, if this reasoning is too complicated, there is even much more simple method, which is, again, I have to intercept the QD mic, and you see, again, I identify two headings, 180, 280. And now you have to reason, which one do I take? Well, which one do I take? The one which is closer to the CDI. If the CDI is displaced to the right, take the heading to the right. If the CDI is displaced to the left, take the heading to the left. So you don't even have to make this reasoning, is the point following or not? Okay, you just look at the CDI, take the heading which is in the same direction of the CDI. That's the most stupid method on earth, I would say. Okay, let's make the same example for the interception of a QD Romeo. Okay, so you've been asked to intercept a QD Romeo, and you see the QD Romeo 210. You find yourself on QD Romeo 180. Again, you might choose the two headings, 30 degrees left, 30 degrees right. Which one do I choose? The one where the CDI says. Or you might do the reasoning. If I take heading 240, the point will rise and will end up on 210. If I take heading 150, the point will rise toward 150, so I will not intercept. Okay, so again, this method is really for stupid pilots, so you can't go wrong with, you can't go wrong. Yes, if you find yourself in this situation to intercept a QD Mike, QD Romeo, which is very close to the one where you are, you can't go wrong. It's very easy. Okay, but the thing is that if the assessor wants to make sure that you are able to interpret the instrument and navigate the IFR, you are able to understand your position in the space, well, in this case, of course, this method won't help you at all, okay? Another dummy method, this one as well, it's one of the easiest methods on earth, is the 90 degrees rule. You just look at where the CDI is displaced, okay? In this case, we are on radial 270. You've been asked to intercept course 240. And you see that this always works no matter the heading. This would work no matter the heading in this case, okay? But this always requires yourself to be very close to the desired radial, okay? So no more than 30, 40, 45 degrees, okay? With this method, actually, it's no more than 90 degrees from the desired radial, okay? And what do? You just put the heading, which is at 90 degrees with the desired course. So you see that the needle is displaced toward 150. So you put heading 150. If you want to smoothen the turn, then you look if it sounds reasonable, and by sounds reasonable, it simply means that the needle of the VOR is not in that area. And if the needle of the VOR is not in that area, you may smoothen the turn and take heading 195, 45 degrees intercept, okay? Let's look at this for the QD mic. You see again, you see the CDI displaced on the left. You take heading 150, so you intercept 90 degrees. Again, you can use smoothen the turn. Yes, you could smoothen the turn, but you see in this case, the needle, you are on QD mic 210. So if you put heading 195, you're gonna take a heading which is gonna bring you fairly close to the station. So you will intercept, but you'll be very close to the station. So maybe in this case, you wouldn't smoothen the turn. You just give 90 degrees intercept in order to avoid getting too close to the station, okay? So this is the 90 degrees intercept rule. Again, it's extremely stupid, okay? In the second example, for example, if you would put heading 195, you wouldn't end up over the station. So you can't choose heading 195. Good. So we have seen here what are the most common methods that you might find in aviation. Then, of course, your instructor might give you other hints, other simplified methods, okay? The one of twice the error is very often used because actually what I didn't say is that when you use twice the error method, it's very often used in navigation because twice the error is either double, either half the distance, okay? If you fly inbound, actually get the slide again, in the twice the error technique, by selecting twice the error inbound, like it would be in this case was heading 280, we would just get half of the distance. So you would intercept the QD mic at half of the current distance. And if you're flying inbound from the QD Romeo, by setting twice the error, you will intercept double the distance. So double the error, double the distance, or double the error, half the distance for the QD mic. That's an easy way of reminding things. So actually I use it as well when it comes to making a return on en route. For example, when you're doing a holding, you turn inbound, you don't find yourself in straight on the inbound. What I do? Well, double the error. And this will ensure that you will intercept the inbound half of the current distance. So half of in 30 seconds, you're back on track, okay? So, as I say, these methods are the most commonly used. It is up to you to choose the method. when you choose your method, of course, practice it, and when you choose it, make sure it works in all circumstances. At this stage, we get to the next step. Well, how to practice? Let's have a word about it. So, in this part, we're talking on how to practice. Well, how to practice? Why not coming at the Aviomar Flight Academy, which is my sponsor? And of course, there you will find a large number of professional pilots coming from several airlines, and I can guarantee to you that you might find a very high level of professionalism and training, adequate training for your needs. Let's have a word about Aviomar and then we get back.
Welcome to Aviomar Flight Academy, a selected training partner of Ryanair for the provision of highly qualified and skilled pilots to the airline. Our industry-leading APS-MCC course has been developed to provide future Ryanair pilots with the skills and competencies as required by the airline to commence the type rating on the Boeing 737-800 aircraft. This course is entirely held in our Rome training center, where 2 state-of-the-art Boeing 737 simulators are located.
You will acquire competence to work in multi-crew environment, practicing task and CRM exercises. Unlike a standard MCC course, you will become competent in managing sequences of actions and more complicated systems are presented on a line aircraft. Ultimately, only in the Ryanair mentorate APS-MCC, the focus will be on the skills and competence required to meet the company standards and successfully complete the subsequent type rating by training.
Our training is conducted by instructors with direct Ryanair operational experience.
The standard of the simulator used in our Ryanair mentored APS-MCC course is specified to support that the training provided represents the real airline standard aircraft. The course is structured in a way to address areas where pilot can be weak during an airline assessment and to easily adapt to a modern airline working environment.
The extra emphasis on the core competencies, manual handling, airline standard simulators, and instructors will provide students with outstanding preparation for their upcoming assessment. Students will be exposed to Ryanair's safety culture and operational philosophy from day one of the program, in addition to having an exclusive access to a fast-track recruitment process. Program graduates will enjoy a distinctive advantage at the actual interview and assessment stage. Why choose a standard MCC course when you can have so much more? It will be our pleasure to welcome you at Aviomar Flight Academy in Rome.
Alright, so how to practice? Well, what makes me really surprised when I run assessments or even assessment preparations is that very often I see pilots that come to the assessment or come to the assessment preparation thinking that they're fully prepared. So they just come say, okay, I want to retake a bit want to clean up the rust. So I want to fly just an ILS and I'm going to be okay for the assessment. Or maybe they show up the assessment, they didn't even do a preparation simulator, and the IFR is literally all over the place. And what I'm asking to myself is that, do you really need to get to the company entry assessment to realize that you don't have the required skill, that you can't fly IFR. You know, what do you think is it gonna be asked to you at the moment of the assessment? At the end of the day, what could the assessor ask you? Technical knowledge in the interview and handling, being able to fly the aircraft, maintain the altitudes, you know, doing some maneuvers, fly an ILS, maybe a single engine ILS, maybe performing some multitask CRM procedures, some problem analysis with the other guy, and flying non-precision approach. That's basically the most common thing that you might be asked to fly as an SAD, a star, DME arcs, hold entries, basic IFR exercises, all right? And do you really need to go to the assessment to realize that you can't make basic IFR exercises? I think no. The answer should be no. Okay, so you have a great tool with very few euros. I paid personally something like 74 euros for an application, you know, like X-Planes, flight simulators, this kind of video games. Okay, you buy one of those video games, you don't really need to play the game, you know, what you need is 0 meters visibility. You don't really need a stick or anything. Just buy the software and fly the aircraft with a keyboard. That's good enough, okay? You put your aircraft in flight, tune in a VOR and start doing exercises on the VOR. Can you do the MERs? Can you do hold entries? Can you intercept radials, okay? Now, if you lack in fantasy, I would say take charts, follow the IFR procedures. Of course, my strong recommendation is that from time to time, you have somebody looking at you, because the problem in this kind of home video game simulators is that if you do a mistake, nobody will be there to correct you. So sometimes you see pilots that they actually do mistakes and they in time consolidate the mistake. And this is quite of a problem of this type of simulators. But if you have it, very often it might be a good use for practicing IFR. So I'll show you a nice game that you might use, that you might find interesting to practice your radial intercepts. How to play Margherita. It's very simple. You need this instruction page, all right, and you need 4 dices. So the first dice is going to be the requested instruction. I tried this, I got 6. Okay, 6, it means you see QD Mike, QD Romeo for 1 and 2. 3 and 4 is the radial inbound, radial outbound. And 5 and 6 is going to be course to, course from. So I'm requested to intercept a course from. Then the last 2 dices, the second 2 dices, sorry, will be, you see I got 6 and 2. So I just do dice 2 multiply dice 3 multiplied by 10. So 6 by 2 is 12 by 10 is 120. So I have to intercept course from 120 of the VOR. In the beginning, you can work like this. And this is already a good exercise, I would say. But if you want to get a bit more challenging, then you need the 4th dice, okay? The 4th dice is going to be the required exercise. So now, for example, I got 5, okay? So 1 and 2 are, and 1, 2, and 3, sorry, are the distances. So if you got 1 is the ME10, if you got 2 is the ME15, if you got 3 is the ME20. Now, if you got 4 and 5, is going to be a teardrop intercept, okay? The problem is that in that case you need to be inbound. So you see it says if the first dice is an even number, like it is in our case, then you have to change it to an odd number. So you have to do the number minus 1. So now from the value 1 to 0, instead of being a course from, I'm requested to intercept a course to. So the request is to intercept 1 to 0 course to the station. And this exercise has to be done with intercepting of a radial which is 30 degrees away with a right turn. So here it requires a little bit of reasoning. If I want to make a right turn, on which radial should I be 30 degrees off in order to intercept 1 to 0? Well, with a right turn, it's 90 degrees. In our case, actually, it's number 5. Number 5 is exactly the same thing with the left turn. So it means that I have to intercept a radial 150 outbound, make a left turn, and then intercept after 1 minute, left turn, and then intercept the course to 120 to the station. If it would be 6 instead, it will be established at the ME5th after completion of a reversal procedure. So in this case, basically it could be from or it could be to. So if this one would be 6, here we go, with 6 there, it will be course from. So it means that first I have to intercept the course 2 at a given distance, and as soon as I'm established on that course 2, I make a reversal procedure so as to come out established in the course from at DME 15. So this also requires a little bit of calculation of what are our radius of turns, okay? Good, that's all about how to play this game. It's a positioning exercise game, nothing else than that. You can play this with the X-Plane, Flight Simulator, whatever, you know, Radial Intercept Simulator you have. And it's very good practice. All right, so we have seen how to play my game, Margherita game, okay? It's very simple. Actually, how do you play with your friends? And I suggest you to play with your friends, with your fellow colleagues, student pilots, okay? Why? Because if you do a mistake, the other guy might pick up your mistake and correct you, okay? And how do you play with him? Well, it's very simple. Normally, it's a round of 3 intercept, okay? So a round of 3 attempts. In every attempt, when you fly, of course, you use the autopilot, and you use the autopilot to 220 knots, altitude hold, and just the heading mode, okay? You can't use any different mode like Warlock, which would help you in intercept. You pause the game, you decide which is the radial you have to intercept, and all the maneuver that you have to do anyway. And then once it is done, you unfreeze the game, you put the heading to intercept, and you can only fly the procedure with the heading mode, okay? Basically, once you start your turn, you can't basically make adjustments. So when you have to intercept a radial, you must intercept it with a single turn. So a single turn to intercept, to go towards the radial, and a single turn to establish on top of the radial. Same thing if you have to do the exercise of intercepting an outbound radial 30 degrees with the overfly, you know, a single turn to go over the station and a single turn to track the 30 degrees outbound, okay? What happens is that at the end of the exercise, once you are established on the desired course, the game is put in pause again, and you determine what is the final error in the intercept, how many degrees you're out, and how many nautical miles you are out of the desired track, okay? And at this point, for every single degree is 1 point, and for 1 nautical mile is 1 point. Of course, every point is a penalty point, so the player that takes less penalty points is the winner of the round of 3 intercept, okay? I'm sure you might have a good fun with your friends, and this might help you in improving your basic IFR. And again, this will help you in avoid getting to the assessment or getting to your training session and discovering that you can't intercept radial. And that is not the very good moment. Let's get now finally to the end of this video, and I want to get back to that radial intercept that we saw at the very beginning, okay? You remember that we had to intercept a course inbound, perfect. And as long as I present to you this exercise as a course inbound, is not a problem. You can intercept using the course bearing, using the sector rule of thumb, using the 90 degrees rule of thumb. You can use it. You can use whatever stupid rule you want. But when I actually present to you this chart and show you that this is the Roma Ciampino VOR approach, okay, now the problem changed. Now the situation has changed, okay? Why? Because this is a real procedure and you have real obstacles. So now you can't really use dummy techniques, because the dummy techniques will not give you position awareness. So let's see, how can we determine where should I turn, left or right, what heading should I take, okay? Station is in the middle, the aircraft is on the tail, of course, and the airport is over the station, is with the station, okay? So the selected course basically tell me what is the final approach course. I can identify the area with the obstacles, which is basically there, okay? So now that I identify that the obstacles are actually on my left side, I would say maybe turning left is not a good idea, because if I look at the chart, it's more flat on the right, okay? So having made this consideration, I might tell you, okay, it's a right turn so that I avoid this area of obstacle. Perfect. Having made this consideration, of course, heading 015 is wrong, so I should take an intercept heading, and I can take an intercept heading, for example, around 300, okay? So I want to intercept, at the moment is the 14 DME is the distance. I want to intercept more or less around 8 DME, which is the beginning of the procedure. So if I draw the turn, you see, by turning right, I will increase the distance. If I was to turn left, actually I would decrease the distance. So if I turn right by increasing the distance, I might say adding 300 might be a good choice, you know. I increase a bit the distance, adding 300 will take me pretty close to the station, but still at the moment it's 10 degrees, and the end of the turn I expect it to be a bit more. If I was to turn left, again, you see, by turning left, I will be ending up over terrain, and I would need a very big angle of intercept, 90 degrees. If I was less than 90 degrees, I would actually end up too close on the procedure. I wouldn't be able to start the procedure because the procedure starts around 8 DME at 3000 feet. Now, let's look outside, because we are in the simulator cavalcade. Let's look outside and let's see if my reasoning on the instrument corresponds to what I see outside. So I'm flying toward terrain, toward high terrain, and you see on the left there is this green area, which is actually a mountain, which is more or less the same height I am. So if I turn to left, yes, I get closer to the terrain. If I turn to right, as we just said, I get in the flat area. So turning right might be, as we just said, a better option. Now, what I do, I've actually turned to the right, and I decided to take heading 300. So let's turn to the right, heading 300, and let's see how it progresses with the intercept. Now, the good thing of this method, as we said, is that as I'm intercepting, I might monitor the progress. If I was to use just the OBI, actually, this wouldn't be possible. I cannot really monitor using the OBI. Now you see that I can already see that the heading I choose 300 at the moment is giving me just. Now I'll move a little bit forward the video. That's at the end of the turn. From the 8 degrees opening we had, we're now ending up around 12 degrees, 14 degrees angle. So now I might assess the situation and decide if this 15 degrees that I have a difference between the QD mic and the current heading is going to work. You see, if I continue straight, yes, I will intercept. And the question is, am I going to intercept too close or not? You know, I'm drawing basically, now with 15 DME, I'm drawing the arc of the 10 DME, and I can determine that I want to be established more or less 10 DME. So maybe, yes, this heading is really tight because I'm going to be established less than 10 DME. Let's look outside. Let's see how it's going with the separation of obstacles. You see the obstacles are on our right side. And on the current track, on the current heading, I don't have any obstacles. So I will intercept without hitting any obstacle. Now, looking back inside, as I said before, I don't want to be established too late. I want to be established inbound at 6 DME. If I'm established inbound 6 DME, I can't start the descent, it's too late. So what I'm gonna do now is turn a little bit, open a little bit to the left. This takes me a bit farther out from the obstacles, and this will give me a bit more intercept heading so that I will establish on the inbound track. So I can make a final review. You see the looking where the segment of terrain is. I'm basically now getting out of that segment of terrain because I'm approaching radial 1, it's 0 anyway, and I'm 11 DME. So yes, I avoided the area I wanted to avoid. I'm just 15 degrees to intercept at 11 DME. So am I going to be able to be established by 8? Yes, it looks like with this corrected heading, I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to be able to establish by 8. Cool. So we use this example just to visualize, just to emphasize how much is important to maintain situational awareness, looking at the instrument, and what is the difference of using a proper interpretation technique that give you a full situational awareness, understanding where you are, where the obstacles are, as compared to a dummy method, which might be, you know, just double the error or take the 90 degrees or the segment, the sector rule of thumb, you know, this rule of thumb that does not actually give you situational awareness. So with this, we get to the end of our video. I think we have reviewed all the techniques to intercept a radial. We have discussed all the main area of failure, of mistake. So although today's video is really the heart of the matter, the subject intercepting, don't underestimate what it has been said on the part 1, okay? The part 1 video, as we just said, caused as many failure as this part 2, okay? And if you have a proper use of the instrument, actually you get more chances to fail on what we said on the first part of the video rather than what we said on this part of the video. Thank you for your attention for today. As I said, there is a video part 3 that should come out at some point, so stay tuned for further updates. Thank you once again for your attention, and have a safe flight.